Excuse the lighting and excuse my voice. Been doing a lot of coaching lately, so I sporadically lose my voice. Pero estoy aquí. Um, Message from Mr. Benson for your reflection this week. Explore the following. Based on your own work with and knowledge of local youth and communities, consider a specific category of official or unofficial actors, air quote, from the reading that you think would be an important area to focus on in order to improve or remove slash create the policies that impact young people's lives. Why that particular official slash unofficial actor category? What should be done? Um, so for example, if I were writing this, I might draw on my experience teaching working class first generation college students and make the case that we need to focus on the actor category of social movements in order to make 4 years of college free for all students. I will go on to explain why I think that, share some ideas of how we might go about working towards building social movement for free college education. Um, Hope this makes sense. Reach out with any questions. So I actually made the mistake of reading this article like 2 weeks ago. So I had to reread it. The different categories or actors of change. So they talk about, there was quite a few like organizations. Let me start from the beginning, not the end. Already existing. So community organizations, you got Acorn, you got Industrial Areas Foundation, nation's largest standing network of local faith and community-based organizations. Organization primarily of churches in low and moderate income neighborhoods in the Southwest. That's the organization that I want to focus on because in my community, as a person of faith, as a Christian, I believe that one of the biggest injustices that we see in the Black community, particularly, is the churches, in my opinion, robbing the Black community. Meaning, if you go to low income neighborhoods that I'm going to refer to as the hood, and I don't mean that in a negative sense at all. The hood is short for a neighborhood, and in particularly this neighborhood is full of low income, working blue collar workers, typically, right? These hoods are usually the ones that end up being gentrified as well, because they're majority of the time located in like city centers. So with this organization, IAF, the reason why I want to focus on this organization is because I think again one of the big injustices that the churches are doing in these communities is they're taking tithes and offerings from the community who is already low income, and they're, I can't even say misappropriating the funds because we really don't know what they're doing. I think that that's a problem. If you're a church or a community organization that's accepting donations, you should have a public record of what you're doing with these funds. For example, when I was in Dallas over the weekend, I went to this church called Social Dallas. It was Easter Sunday, so of course it was packed. It's what you would consider a mega church, because it was where the church service was actually a music venue, right? So like for concerts, they have events, they have state fairs there. It holds at least 5,000, I would say. Um, I would assume there was a lot of people there, a lot of people. Um, and one of the things that they did at this particular service is they actually showed about 4 minute video showing about the works that they do with their tithes and offering. Now you have hundreds upon thousands of people that attend this church. They give tithes and offerings on a week in and week out basis. And what they did was they actually helped a community organization And these were young women who were incarcerated and had kids. And this organization helps transition them back into, uh, into living, right? Living and taking care of their family. Um, and what they did was, one of the things that they did was take all of these women, these young ladies, on a shopping spree to buy gifts. This is around Christmas time, to buy gifts for their kids, which was dope because it empowered the women to feel like, I can take care of my household. Um, Also, one of the things that they did was they renovated the living quarters. So they had like townhouse type of things. They went in there, changed the light fixtures, threw out all the old bedding, got in like new stuff. Like they literally renovated, like if they were doing a fix and flip, that's basically what they did for these living spaces for these young women. Um, so you were able to see exactly what the church is doing with the funds and how it's impacting the community, because this community organization, the owner of this organization, actually, part of the video, he was explaining what the church had did for them. And I think when it comes to these type of organizations, one of the things that they're doing is began meeting with leaders and members of churches that reflect racial, they're financially independent, and that local leaders and institutions must commit their own dues money of 250,000 for organizing projects before they pursue foundation money. This is a part of that transparency that I think organizations should see. They believe in the Iron Rule, IAF, which is Industrial Areas Foundation. Um, in these areas, um, low income neighborhood in the Southwest Chicago area and in the Northeast, Boston, New York, Philly, Patterson, New Jersey. IAF employs about 150 full-time professional organizers, 60 IAF local and 20 states and DC. These groups made up of nearly 3,000 congregations and associations and tens of thousands of ministers, pastors, some rabbi, women, religious leaders, state and metropolitan lay and civic leaders. Between 3 and 4 million Americans are members. So you got 3 to 4 million members. And I think one of the things an organization like this should do is be more active in the Black community. Again, if you have 3 to 4 million members and they're apparently giving you 10% of their income for tithes, for, let's just say half of these men, let's just say 3 million, only half of them actually attend the church, and half of that half actually give tithes. So for round numbers, let's just say 500,000. You got 500,000 people who are giving tithes on a month to month basis, which is typically 10% of their income. Let's just say average income for even numbers, let's say 40,000, 10% of that would be 4,000, 4,000 a year, 4,000 a year times the 500,000 members. Talking about 2.9 million. I can't even, this is my calculator says. I don't even know how to read that. 2E9. I don't even know what that means. I don't even, does that mean 9 commas? Is that 9 billion? Is that what that's saying? I think so. I think that's like 2 billion. That's enough money to have your own church, or not your own church, to have your own bank. If you have your own bank, now you can lend within the community. So now, and that's why I was having a hard time choosing one particular organization, because I believe with the collaboration of this one organization and the shared vision of empowering the community financially, educationally, and through health, I think you can really change a community. So imagine you get, I mean, let's just say $2 billion that's coming in on an annual basis. You have enough money to start your own bank. What does that mean that you can do? Well, if you're starting your own bank, now you can lend within your community to help keep these Black businesses open, these minority businesses open, these businesses that are in these low income neighborhoods open. Because what happens is other people from outside the community have businesses in that community, but don't even live in that community. So again, that's that black dollar, which is $1 trillion power that is being distributed to other communities that are making other communities wealthy. So if you have these organizations that have their own bank, they're lending to the businesses who are actually in the community, which can help the community thrive. Okay, so that's the banking side of it. That's just one industry. So now with the also that industry, you can build your own grocery stores. So now you can actually nourish the people in that community. You can feed the people in that community. Most of these low income communities are food deserts, which means that they don't have grocery stores where you can get fresh fruit and produce. Most people in these low income neighborhoods, and yes, I'm making assumptions because I don't have the facts to look it up. I'm just going based off of my experiences and where I grew up and where I lived, the neighborhoods that I frequented. They did not have grocery stores. They had Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Family Dollar. So you're getting a lot of processed foods. You're not getting fresh foods. You got liquor stores, you got check cashing places all over. If you got $2.9 billion, somebody can take out a loan or you can lend to a business that can then build a grocery store for your community. So now your community is healthier, they're living longer, et cetera, et cetera. So that's two industries. You got the church, you got the grocery store, or sorry, you got the bank and you got the grocery store. Okay, now on top of that, what you can begin doing with that $2 billion and growing because now these other businesses are making money. And again, we're only talking about a fraction of the amount of people who are actually in this organization. Now, with that money, you can then begin to build your own hospitals. Why is having your own hospitals that serve your community? Well, because a lot of people in those communities don't have health insurance, can't afford health insurance. So now you can fund your own community clinic because there's a lot of people who are dying from treatable diseases, but because they don't have the finances or the funding, they can't actually go seek the medical attention that they need. They can't get the checkups that they need. Uh, we talk about women, minority women and their pregnancies. They're being treated as science experiments. Hey, let's try this thing on her. Let's try. But if you have your own hospital in your own community, um, now you can actually treat and help birth children how they should be birthed. So you got a bank, you got a grocery store, you got a hospital. Okay, last thing that you need is your own school. There's a lot of education organizations here. Initially, I wanted to talk about some of those education organizations, and this is just my opinion, I don't know if you can trust somebody outside of your community to truly educate your community for further growth. What do I mean by that? People who are outside of your community, who are educating your community, have implicit biases, meaning that they look at a certain group of people and they assume that they have a certain level of intellect or ability. Now, with that, they're not challenging, providing the resources, education, expertise that they're providing to their own community. For example, the school that I teach at, I think to be honest, I don't think any of the teachers, maybe 5 or 6 of the teachers in our school, which is a charter school, actually grew up in or are from the community that they teach in. So now you have people who are on the outside who have these implicit biases who are coming into the school and educating individuals. How are they really educating the individuals? Well, it depends. It's based on the state standards. If you have these organizations like IAF, who has 3 and 4 million members, you can now push public policy to, I don't want to say change the educational standards, but to challenge them at least, right? There's certain schools who would do things a different way, but they're actually pigeonholed by the state's standards. For example, charter schools, they have to start at a certain time and end at a certain time. And those times that they start and end, let's be honest, are they really conducive to the growth of the youth? Most youth need about, if you're talking about preteens and teens, they need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. If they're forced to, let's just say the average, young person, I want to say the average, let me gain my thoughts. Within these educational institutions, there's limited spots when it comes to extracurricular activities. So let's just say individuals are participating in these extracurriculars. These extracurriculars cost money. If the church is in the community, um, if these community organizations like IAF, like it said, IAF uses strategy with success in Texas in its school reform efforts. By 1999, the program covered over 100 schools and had pressured the state legislator to substantially increase the funding, resources, and technical expertise of the school. Again, I love that. However, who is running the schools? Who is teaching in these schools? You're not you're not dealing with the root, you're dealing with the symptoms of it. The symptom of low funding, the symptom of technical expertise, the symptom of that is the educators in that community who are coming in with those biases. And again, with the lack of resources, if you got $2.9 billion, like we're talking about in tithe money, you can provide, those resources. And that's only going to improve your community because those same individuals who are getting that education, they can go into the world and end up being more successful in their own right, which then brings more money back into the community, ideally, right? They have more pride in their community. If you look at some of the other communities that are well off, the reason why they are is because when people graduate and leave from those communities, they give back to the schools, they give back to the community organizations. Why would somebody want to give back to a community that was not instrumental in providing that growth for them? And if anything, was actually a hindrance for that. So again, organizations like IAF, you know, you use all that tithe money and pull it together to create your own bank, create your own grocery store, create your own hospitals, create your own schools, fund your own schools, employ your own staff for these schools, provide the education expertise for your own schools. Now you can actually empower the community. Um, and that's why I had a hard time with this article because and maybe that's something I need to personally take the initiative in is pulling together some organizations to join in this initiative because when we're talking about change, a lot of times we deal with the symptom and not the root of the issue. Let me make sure I even answer the question because I just went off on a crazy long tangent. Um, so we talked about the organization. What would be an important area to focus on in order to improve or remove/create the policies that impact young people's lives? I didn't really talk about policies, but I talked about different things that they can do. Again, you have, a 3 to 4 million person voting base and counting because the youth are going to end up being adults one day. Yeah, and I talked about what should be done. So I hit all of the different spaces. Um, yeah, and again, like just being transparent, that's my pickle with a lot of organizations right now is like great intentions, but we're dealing with the symptom and not the root. I think the root of it is if you empower the community by putting banks in that community, by putting grocery stores in that community, by building schools, by building hospitals, now you can employ your own people. You can educate your own people. I think in general, there needs to be an educational reform. America's not even top 20 when it comes to education. Last time I checked, we were 28th, actually behind a lot of other countries, including Canada. Um, there's I had my friends, some mentees I had might have been 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago from the Czech Republic. And they talk about that after they graduate their high school, they're pretty much ready to enter the workforce. And if they wanted to, they can go to college for free. $2.9 billion in tithes. I think that could put a couple kids to college for free, you know. But that's my rant, that's my thoughts. And I think I think maybe that's my challenge for this class too, is like, shout out to Benson because he definitely challenges us to think about how it can be done and what needs to be done, but how do we do that? You know? So hopefully that was give you something to chew on and think about. I'm out of here. Peace.